My wife's lover called me Amanda's plus one at their company party. He had no idea that I owned 8% of his company, and that I was about to make one phone call that would cost him everything he'd spent 10 years building. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the moment I realized my marriage was over, even though it would be another 6 months before anyone else knew it. My name is Nathan. I'm 43, and for the last 15 years, I've made my living as a financial analyst. I work remotely for various clients, due diligence for acquisitions, forensic accounting when something smells off, portfolio analysis for small funds. It's steady work, not glamorous, but it pays well enough. I'm the kind of person who can look at a balance sheet and see the story behind the numbers, where someone's hiding losses, when they're cooking the books, what a company's really worth versus what they're claiming. My wife Amanda is 39. When this story starts, she was the sales director at Tech Vista, a Series B funded startup that made AI-powered sales optimization software, big vision, aggressive growth targets, the whole Silicon Valley playbook. Amanda had been there about 2 years, and in that time, she'd gone from senior sales manager to director. She was good at her job, charismatic, driven, the kind of person who walks into a room and people notice. We'd been married 11 years. No kids, Amanda always said, not yet, after the company stabilizes. First it was after her MBA, then after she landed the right role, then after the Series A funding, then after Series B. There was always a reason to wait. Looking back, I think part of her knew that kids would tie her to a life she wasn't sure she wanted anymore. We met 12 years ago at a mutual friend's birthday party in Brooklyn. I was finishing my CPA certification. She was a couple years into her sales career at a mid-sized SaaS company. We clicked immediately. She loved that I was stable, thoughtful, someone who would actually listen when she practiced her pitches. I loved her energy, her ambition, the way she attacked life like it was something to be conquered. Those first 5 years were good, really good. We supported each other. When she got laid off during a restructuring, I held things together financially while she found her next role. When I was deciding whether to go independent or stay corporate, she encouraged me to take the risk. We were a team. But here's something Amanda never knew about me, something I never advertised. I'm not just an accountant who does okay. I'm wealthy. Not billionaire wealthy, but comfortable enough that I haven't had to worry about money in over a decade. When I was 25, my grandfather died and left me $50,000. Most people would have bought a car, taken a trip, maybe put it toward a house. I put it in the market. This was 2007, right before everything collapsed. I got lucky with the timing of some shorts, then lucky again buying the recovery. Amazon at 35, Google at 150, Netflix when everyone thought they were dead. I didn't bet the farm on any single play. I was patient, methodical. I studied companies the way other people studied fantasy football. By the time I was 30, that 50,000 had turned into $500,000. By 35, I'd cracked $1 million liquid and started doing angel investing, small checks, 20 to 50,000, into early-stage startups that had solid fundamentals and founders I believed in. Some failed. 6 exits paid off big enough to make the failures irrelevant. When Amanda and I got married, my net worth was around $1.2 million. Today, it's just over $3.2 million, mostly liquid, plus equity positions in a dozen companies. I never flaunted it. We lived in a nice but not ostentatious apartment in the city. I drove a 4-year-old Camry. Amanda knew I did some investing, but she never asked details. She was building her career. I was doing my thing. It worked, or as I thought it worked. About 2 years ago, Amanda joined Tech Vista. The founder and CTO was a guy named Richard Chen, 41, divorced. One of those charismatic tech genius types who could talk about machine learning and market disruption until everyone in the room was nodding along, even if they didn't fully understand what he was saying. Tall, good-looking, expensive suits. The kind of guy who walks into a room and sucks all the oxygen out of it. Amanda came home from her first week raving about Richard's vision, how he'd figured out something nobody else had, how the product was going to revolutionize B2B sales, how she was getting in on the ground floor of something huge. I was happy for her. Really, I was. She'd been frustrated at her last role, felt like she'd hit a ceiling. Tech Vista felt like a fresh start. But over the next year, something changed, subtle at first. She started coming home later. Client dinner, investor drinks. Emergency strategy session with Richard. Her phone was always face down on the table. She bought new clothes, nicer than what she usually wore to the office. Started wearing a perfume I hadn't bought her. Our sex life slowed, then stopped. I'm exhausted, babe. Can we do this weekend instead? Then the weekend would come and she'd have a migraine or be too stressed from work or just not in the mood. I tried to reconnect. Planned a date night to our favorite Italian place in the West Village. She canceled an hour before. Emergency pitch prep for a major client. I suggested a weekend upstate. She said she had a company retreat that same weekend. Couldn't miss it. I started to feel like a roommate. Someone who lived in the same apartment, paid half the bills, said good morning and good night, but wasn't really part of her life anymore. Looking back, I can see all the signs. But when you love someone, you make excuses. You tell yourself they're just stressed, just ambitious, just going through a phase. You tell yourself you're being paranoid, insecure, that if you just give them space, things will get back to normal. And then one morning, 6 months before the party, where everything ended, Amanda left her laptop open while she took a shower. I wasn't snooping. I was making coffee in the kitchen, and I heard the notification chime. I glanced over. Force of habit. The way you glance at any screen that lights up near you. The message preview was right there on the lock screen, from R. Last night was incredible. Can't stop thinking about you. My heart stopped. Just stopped. I stood there with the coffee pot in my hand, staring at those words, trying to make them mean something other than what they obviously meant. Maybe it was a friend. Maybe she'd gone to some work event and R was a colleague talking about the event itself. But I knew. Even as I was making excuses in my head, I knew. I put the coffee pot down very carefully. My hands were shaking. I walked to the laptop and opened it. No password. She'd been logged in when she went to shower. Her messages were right there. I should have stopped, closed the laptop, maybe confronted her right then, asked her directly, given her a chance to explain. But I didn't. I read months of messages from someone saved in her phone as R. Richard. Not even trying to hide it, just not putting his last name. Messages that started professional, then friendly, then flirty, then explicit. Plans to meet at a hotel in Midtown. Can't wait to have you all to myself Wednesday afternoon. Details I won't repeat because they're burned into my brain in a way I'll never be able to erase. And then, worse than the affair itself, I found their future plans. Richard had written, about 2 months prior, "After the IPO, we won't have to hide anymore. You'll be set. We'll both be set. Finally, we can do this right." Amanda's response, "I know. I've known for a while. After the IPO, I'll finally be free. I just need to time it right. Get my equity vested, file for divorce, start fresh. With you." Another message from Richard. "You're wasted on someone who doesn't even understand what you're building. You need a partner who matches your vision. Amanda." "I know. Nathan's safe. He was what I needed when I was younger, but I've outgrown safe." I read that message 3 times. Outgrown safe. Like I was a pair of shoes that didn't fit anymore. I heard the shower turn off. I closed the laptop. Went back to the kitchen, poured the coffee. By the time Amanda came out in her towel, I was sitting at the table with my laptop open, checking emails, looking completely normal. "Morning, babe," she said, kissing the top of my head. "Morning," I said. My voice sounded steady. I was proud of that. "You make coffee?" "Yeah, it's ready." "You're the best." She poured herself a cup, disappeared into the bedroom to get dressed for work. And I sat there, staring at my laptop, feeling like the floor had opened up underneath me. That's when I realized she wasn't leaving me for Richard. She was leaving me for a payout. The IPO was projected 9 to 12 months out. If the numbers they were telling investors held up, Amanda's stock options would be worth somewhere between $1 and $2 million. She was going to wait. Let me keep being the supportive husband. Let me keep thinking everything was fine. Then, after she was rich, she'd divorce me and go public with Richard. And you know what? If she wanted to play the long game, I could play it longer. Because here's the thing Amanda didn't know. About 18 months earlier, she'd come home one night buzzing with excitement about Tech Vista's Series A funding round. She'd shown me the pitch deck, walked me through the product, asked what I thought from an investor perspective. I told her it looked promising, and I meant it. I did my own research, looked at the market, the team, the tech, talked to some people I knew in the industry. The product was solid. The growth metrics looked good. The founders, including Richard, had decent track records. So I invested. $200,000 through a shell LLC I'd set up years earlier called NW Ventures. Bought 8% of the company in the Series A round. The board knew NW Ventures. They'd seen the name on the cap table, had the LLC's contact information for shareholder communications. But they didn't know Nathan Walker, the quiet accountant married to their sales director, was the person behind it. I had board observer rights. I got copies of all the financial reports. I could dial into board meetings, camera off, usually muted, just listening. I'd been in the virtual room when Richard and Amanda presented quarterly results, when they talked about the IPO timeline, when they celebrated the Series B closing. I'd been there the whole time, watching, listening, a ghost at their table. And I'd noticed something they probably hoped no one would notice. Richard was cooking the books. Nothing egregious enough to be obvious. But when you've done forensic accounting for 15 years, you develop a nose for it. Revenue recognition that was aggressive to the point of fraudulent, booking contracts as revenue before delivery, using shell companies to create fake pilot programs that inflated user numbers. Payment terms extended so far out that the cash flow didn't match the revenue line. The Series B investors, $25 million at a $180 million valuation, had bought and based partially on those numbers. And now Richard was preparing for an IPO roadshow. If those numbers held under SEC scrutiny, the company could be valued at $400 million or more. But they wouldn't hold. I knew they wouldn't. The house of cards would collapse the moment any real auditor looked closely. Richard's arrogance had made him sloppy. And I had documentation, screenshots, board meeting recordings, email threads, everything. So that morning, sitting at my kitchen table with cold coffee and a broken heart, I made a decision. I wouldn't confront Amanda. I wouldn't scream or cry or beg her to tell me it wasn't true. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me destroyed. I would wait. I would gather evidence. I would position myself perfectly. And when the time was right, I would make one move that would end everything. I've always believed in playing the long game, and this game was just beginning. The next 6 months were the hardest of my life. Every morning, I woke up next to a woman I loved who was planning to leave me. Every morning, she'd kiss me goodbye and say, "Love you." And I'd say it back, tasting the lie in both our mouths. I became two people. At home, I was the perfect husband, supportive, kind, asked about her day, listened to her talk about work challenges, about Richard's brilliant strategies, about how excited she was for the company's future. I smiled and nodded and played my role. In secret, I was documenting everything. I copied every message I could find on her laptop during the rare moments she left it unlocked. I noted every late night at the office on a spreadsheet. Every Wednesday afternoon when she had a client meeting, I knew where she really was, the hotel in Midtown, room 847, checked in under Richard's name. I hired a private investigator, not to confirm the affair, I already knew, but to have evidence that would hold up in court. The PI was professional, discreet. 2 weeks later, he delivered a package. 200 photos, 50 pages of time-stamped messages, hotel receipts, credit card statements showing dinners for two at restaurants she'd told me she'd gone to with clients. The evidence was airtight. I also started therapy. Dr. Sarah Chen, a psychologist who specialized in infidelity and betrayal trauma. I told her everything. She asked me hard questions. Are you doing this for justice or because you're hurt? I told her the truth, both. Are you sure you want to go down this road? I told her I was already on it. She helped me process the pain in a healthy way. Helped me understand that what I was feeling, the rage, the heartbreak, the obsessive need to make them pay, was normal. And she helped me channel it into something productive. I started working out, got my finances in order, opened a separate bank account, met with a divorce attorney, top firm in the city, one of those lawyers who handles high net worth divorces and doesn't blink at prenups or fault-based filings. She reviewed our prenup. We'd signed one before the wedding, basic, but it had a clear infidelity clause. With the evidence I had, Amanda would get almost nothing beyond what New York state law required, and given her income and the length of our marriage, spousal support would be minimal and short-term. You'll walk away clean, the attorney said. She'll walk away with whatever she earned during the marriage, and that's it. Perfect. Meanwhile, I was also documenting Richard's fraud. Using my board observer access, I pulled financial reports going back 18 months. I cross-referenced revenue claims against actual cash flow. I identified the shell companies. I traced the fake contracts. I built a case that any SEC investigator would salivate over, and I reached out to contacts. Through my friend Marcus, a corporate lawyer who'd known me since college, I connected with an SEC attorney who handled startup fraud cases. I gave him the overview, sent him preliminary documentation, asked him to hold it until I gave the signal. "This is serious," he said. "If what you're saying is true, this will tank their IPO and probably trigger criminal charges." "I know," I said. "That's the point." I also contacted 3 tech journalists who covered startup fraud and Silicon Valley scandal. I gave them background, embargoed, told them when they could publish. They agreed to wait. Then I prepared my exit from Tech Vista, found a buyer, a competitor who'd love to acquire an 8% stake in a company that was about to implode. They offered me $400,000 for my shares, contingent on the IPO falling through. Double my investment. I'd take it. Everything was queued up. One domino falls, the rest follow. I just needed the right moment, the perfect moment, the moment when Richard's arrogance would give me the moral clarity I needed to not feel guilty about what I was about to do. And then the party invitation arrived. Tech Vista was hosting a celebration for the Series B closing. $25 million raised, valuation at $180 million. Big venue, open bar, investors and employees and press. Partners and spouses invited. Amanda mentioned it over dinner one night. "Big party next month. Richard wants all the partners there with their spouses. You should come." I looked up from my plate. "Really? Those things aren't usually my scene." She shrugged. "I know, but it would look weird if you weren't there. Plus, it's a big deal for me. I helped close a lot of those Series B relationships." "Of course," I said. "I'll be there." She smiled, reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Thanks, babe. You're the best." I squeezed back, smiled, felt absolutely nothing. The night before the party, Amanda was excited, giddy almost. She'd bought a new dress, dark green, expensive, way nicer than anything she'd wear to a normal work event. She tried it on, asked me how she looked. I told her she looked beautiful. She did. "Tomorrow's huge," she said, sitting on the edge of the bed while I folded laundry. "Richard's going to announce the IPO timeline. We're thinking Q2 next year for the roadshow." "That's great," I said. "You've worked hard for this." "We all have." She paused. "Richard especially. He's been putting in insane hours." "I bet he has," I thought. Out loud I said, "I'm sure." That night, we slept in the same bed. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about 11 years of marriage, the good times, and there had been good times. Our honeymoon in Italy, the weekend we drove to Vermont and got lost on back roads and laughed about it, the night she got her first big promotion and we ordered way too much Thai food and watched terrible movies until 2 a.m. Part of me still loved her. That's what made this so hard. But love without respect is just a habit. And I was breaking the habit. Around 2 a.m., I got up, went to my office, reviewed my notes one final time, double-checked that everything was ready, sent a calendar invite to myself for 8 a.m. the next morning. Conference calls, block calendar. Then I went back to bed and actually slept, soundly, peacefully, for the first time in 6 months. The party was at a hotel ballroom downtown, upscale, but not over the top. Exposed brick walls, Edison bulb lighting, open bar in the corner, small stage for speeches. By the time we arrived at 7 p.m., the place was already packed. About 100 people, investors in suits, employees in startup casual, a few press people with cameras. Amanda looked stunning. I was in my usual, simple charcoal suit, nothing special. We walked in together, but within 5 minutes she drifted toward her colleagues. That was fine. I got a whiskey from the bar and found a spot along the wall where I could watch. Richard was impossible to miss. He was near the center of the room, holding court with a group of investors and early employees. Tall, tailored navy suit, expensive watch, that easy charisma that made people lean in when he talked. Everyone around him was laughing. I watched Amanda navigate the room as she was in her element, networking, laughing, touching people's arms when she made a point. I'd seen her do this 100 times at work events. She was good at it. At one point, she glanced over at me, gave a little wave. I raised my glass slightly. She smiled and went back to her conversation. I'd been to a dozen of these parties over the years. I was always the plus one. Never a guest in my own right, just Amanda's husband, the quiet guy in the corner nursing a drink. Tonight would be different. An hour into the party, Richard stepped up onto the small stage and tapped a glass to get everyone's attention. The room quieted down. "Thank you all for being here," he started. "Tonight we're celebrating something incredible. $25 million in Series B funding, a valuation of $180 million. But more than that, we're celebrating a vision, the vision that Tech Vista is going to fundamentally change how B2B sales works." Applause, cheers. "None of this happens without an incredible team," Richard continued. "And I want to especially thank our sales director, Amanda Walker." More applause. Amanda smiled, looked down modestly, then looked back up at Richard. "Amanda brought not just talent, but dedication," Richard said. "She's here nights, weekends, whatever it takes. She's all in." The way he said all in made my jaw tighten. The subtext wasn't lost on me, or on her apparently, because her smile got a little wider. Then Richard's eyes scanned the room and landed on me. "And of course," he said, his tone shifting to something that sounded friendly but had an edge underneath. "Amanda's plus one is here tonight too. Nathan, right?" Scattered chuckles. I nodded, raised my glass slightly. "What do you do again, Nathan? Account something?" The room was watching me now. I kept my voice calm even. "Financial analysis. I work with various clients on portfolio management and due diligence." "Ah, right," Richard said, nodding like he was genuinely trying to remember. "Numbers guy. Important work, I'm sure. Someone's got to count the beans while the rest of us build empires, right?" Bigger laughs this time. I saw Amanda's face. She was smiling, but there was a flash of something. Embarrassment, maybe, but she didn't say anything. Didn't defend me. Just laughed along with everyone else. Richard raised his glass. "To the builders, the dreamers, the ones who take risks and change the world." Everyone drank. I drank too. Someone standing near me, a venture capitalist type, middle-aged guy in an expensive suit, leaned over and said quietly, "Don't take it personally. Richard's just Richard. He gets like that when he's had a few drinks." I smiled. "Oh, I'm not taking it personally at all." And I meant it. Because Richard had just given me something priceless. Moral clarity. I wasn't destroying him for revenge anymore. I was destroying him because he deserved it. I stayed at the party exactly 30 more minutes. Didn't make a scene. Didn't sulk. I just finished my drink, made small talk with a couple people, then found Amanda. "I'm gonna head out," I said. "Early calls tomorrow morning?" She looked surprised. "Already? It's only 9? "Yeah, I'm pretty beat. You stay, enjoy, you earned it." She hesitated, then kissed my cheek. "Okay, thanks for coming, babe. Don't wait up." "I won't." I left the ballroom, took the elevator down, walked out into the cool night air. Across the street, I could see through the windows into the party. I watched for a moment, saw Richard's hand on Amanda's lower back, guiding her toward a group of investors, saw her laugh at something he said. I turned and walked away. At home, I didn't sleep. I sat in my office reviewing everything one more time. The evidence, the documentation, the timeline, the calls I was going to make. Around 2 a.m., I heard Amanda come home. She was a little drunk. I could hear it in the way she fumbled with her keys, the way she bumped into the hallway table. She came into the bedroom, saw me in the office with the door cracked. "You're still up?" she said, slurring slightly. "Just finishing some work. How was the rest of the party?" "Amazing. Richard's speech about the IPO timeline. God, Nathan, this is really happening." "That's great, Amanda. I'm gonna shower and crash. I'm exhausted." "Okay, good night." "Night, babe." She went into the bathroom. I heard the shower start, heard her singing something off-key. I went back to my laptop and opened my calendar. 8 a.m., 5 phone calls. That's all it would take. I went to bed around 3 a.m. Amanda was already asleep, snoring lightly. I lay next to her one last time, looking at her face in the dim light from the street. I tried to remember what it felt like to love her without reservation, without the weight of betrayal sitting on my chest. I couldn't remember. At 7 a.m., my alarm went off. Amanda was still asleep. She'd sleep until 9 or 10 on a Saturday after a late night. I got up quietly, showered, made coffee, left a note on the kitchen counter, had early calls, coffee's ready. N. Then I went into my office, closed the door, and started making calls. 8 a.m., SEC attorney. This is Nathan Walker. We spoke 2 weeks ago about Tech Vista Holdings. I'm ready to provide formal testimony and documentation. Excellent. We'll need you to come in this afternoon. Can you do 2 p.m.? I'll be there. And you're prepared to provide the evidence packages we discussed? I'm sending them to you right now. Inflated revenue figures, fraudulent contracts, the shell companies Richard Chen used to create fake pilot programs. Everything you need. There was a pause. Mr. Walker, you understand this will trigger an immediate investigation. Any IPO proceedings will likely be halted. I understand completely. That's the point. We'll see you at 2. I hung up, sent the files. First domino down. 8:15 a.m., lead Series B, investor. I called Davidson Ventures, the firm that had led the $25 million round. Got the partner, James Davidson, on the line. James, this is Nathan Walker from NW Ventures. We haven't spoken directly, but I'm one of your co-investors in Tech Vista. Of course, NW Ventures. Good to finally connect, Nathan. What can I do for you on a Saturday morning? I need to inform you that I've just reported Tech Vista's financial irregularities to the SEC. You'll want to get your forensic accounting team on this immediately. Silence, then. I'm sorry, what? Richard Chen has been inflating revenue figures. I have 18 months of documentation. I'm sending you my analysis now. I'd recommend you look at Q2's revenue claims versus actual cash flow. The discrepancy is significant. Jesus Christ, I could hear him moving, probably to his computer. Do you know what you're doing? This will destroy the company. No, Richard's fraud was going to destroy it. I'm just accelerating the timeline. I'm protecting investors from even bigger losses down the line. You're welcome. Nathan, you have about 6 hours before this becomes public. I'd start doing damage control now. I hung up. 8:30 a.m. Board chair. Patricia Morrison was an independent board member, brought in to provide adult supervision. Former CFO at a Fortune 500, no nonsense, didn't suffer fools. I liked her. Patricia, it's Nathan Walker from NW Ventures. Nathan, it's early for a Saturday call. I apologize, but I need to inform you that I've reported Richard Chen's financial fraud to the SEC. I'm sending you the evidence package now. Another pause. Nathan, this is a very serious allegation. I'm also aware that the Series B investors were misled about revenue figures, that Richard created shell companies to inflate user metrics, and that the company is bleeding cash while reporting profitability. If you'd like, I can walk you through the forensic analysis. Send me everything. I need to call an emergency board meeting. You have about 6 hours before the SEC makes this public and the press gets wind of it. If I were you, I'd recommend Richard's immediate resignation. It might salvage some investor confidence. Nathan, this will destroy the company. The company might survive, but Richard won't, nor should he. 8:45 a.m. Divorce attorney. It's Nathan. File the papers today. Include the full evidence package, the affair, the hotel receipts, the messages, everything. You're sure you want to do this all at once? I'm sure. She'll be served at her office by Monday. By then, she'll know why. Understood. I'll have the papers filed by end of business Monday. 9 a.m. The journalists. 3 calls, essentially the same conversation. I lifted the embargo, gave them the full story. The fraud, the affair, the upcoming SEC investigation, sent them documents, screenshots, financial analyses. One of them, a reporter from TechCrunch who'd been covering the Valley for a decade, said, "This is explosive, Nathan. When can we publish? Give it 4 hours. Let the company implode first. Then you can document the crater." By 9:15 a.m., I was done. I sat in my office, coffee in hand, and waited. My phone started ringing at 9:45. Unknown numbers. I ignored them. Then my email started lighting up. Board members, investors, people whose names I vaguely recognized from Tech Vista's ecosystem. I ignored those too. At 10:30, Marcus called. "Jesus Christ, Nathan, it's happening. SEC just announced an investigation into Tech Vista. My phone is blowing up from people in the industry. Did you really do this?" I did. "How do you feel?" I thought about it. Calm. That's either very healthy or very concerning. Probably both. At 11 a.m., Amanda called. I answered. "Nathan, what the fuck did you do?" Her voice was shrill, panicked. I'd never heard her sound like that before. "I reported financial fraud to the SEC," I said calmly. "And I filed for divorce. You should be getting those papers on Monday." "You, what? You can't do this? You'll ruin everything." "No, Amanda, you and Richard ruined everything. I'm just making sure everyone knows it." "You spied on me? You've been planning this?" "I've been protecting myself. There's a difference." There was a beat of silence. Then her voice changed, got softer, pleading. "Nathan, I can explain. Please, let me explain." "Don't. I read all the messages, Amanda. I know about the hotel. I know about the plan to leave me after the IPO. I know about you telling Richard that you'd outgrown safe. I know everything." I heard her breath catch. "My attorney will be in touch," I said. "Don't come home. I'm having your things packed and delivered to your parents' place in New Jersey by Tuesday." "Nathan, please." "Goodbye, Amanda." I hung up, blocked her number, then I made one final call to the competitor who'd agreed to buy my shares. "The deal's on. IPO just got canceled. I'm out. We'll wire the funds today." $400,000, double my initial investment. I was officially done with Tech Vista. I sat back in my chair and exhaled. It was over. In less than 90 minutes, I'd dismantled everything Richard and Amanda had been building toward. And you know what? I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not guilt, just empty. In investing, timing is everything. You wait for the perfect moment, then you strike. It was 9:15 a.m. on a Saturday morning. I'd just struck. Now I waited for the market to react. The market reacted fast. By noon, the SEC's investigation was public knowledge. TechCrunch published first. Tech Vista under investigation for financial fraud. Whistleblower claims revenue inflation. The other outlets followed within the hour. By end of day Saturday, Richard had been placed on administrative leave by the board. Patricia Morrison released a terse statement. "We take these allegations seriously and are conducting a thorough internal review." By Monday morning, the Series B investors had filed a lawsuit against Richard and the company. They'd done their own forensic analysis over the weekend, probably pulled an all-nighter with their accounting teams, and confirmed what I'd told them. $8 million in fraudulent revenue over 18 months, fake contracts, shell companies, all of it. The IPO was officially dead. By Tuesday, Richard was forced to resign. The board gave him no choice: step down voluntarily or be terminated for cause. He chose to resign, but it didn't matter. His reputation was torched. The tech press was calling it one of the biggest startup frauds of the year. And Amanda? She was fired. The official reason was failure to disclose a relationship with a superior. But the implication was clear. If she was sleeping with the CTO, how much did she know about the fraud? Had she been complicit? The board launched an internal investigation into her role. They didn't find enough to charge her with anything criminal. She genuinely hadn't known the extent of Richard's number manipulation, or at least there was no evidence she had. But it didn't matter. Her reputation was shredded. Sales director at a company that imploded due to fraud, having an affair with the fraudulent CTO. No one in tech would touch her. Within 2 weeks, she'd move back in with her parents in New Jersey. I heard this through mutual friends who were still talking to her. Apparently, she'd tried reaching out to Richard, calls, texts, emails. He never responded. He was too busy dealing with lawyers and trying to salvage anything from the wreckage of his company. She'd been disposable to him, just like I'd been disposable to her. The tech press had a field day. How a whistleblower brought down a $180 million startup was one headline. Another, the accountant who torpedoed Silicon Valley's latest unicorn. My identity leaked within a week. Some journalist connected the dots between NW Ventures and Nathan Walker, Amanda's soon-to-be ex-husband. The narrative practically wrote itself. Scorned husband exposes cheating wife and her lover's fraud. Some people called me a hero. Others said I'd gone too far, that I'd destroyed a company and cost 60 people their jobs just to get revenge on my ex. I didn't comment. Not to the press, not on social media, not to anyone except my lawyer and my therapist. Dr. Chen asked me during a session 2 weeks after everything imploded, "How do you feel now that it's done?" "Relieved," I said, "and sad." Both. Do you regret it? I thought about that. Really thought about it. I regret that it was necessary. I don't regret doing it. That's an important distinction. I know I destroyed more than just Amanda and Richard, I continued. Tech Vista had 60 employees. Most of them lost their jobs when the company folded. Investors lost money, though less than they would have lost in a fraudulent IPO. I think about that. But Richard was committing fraud. If I hadn't reported it, he would have taken it public. Thousands of public market investors would have been defrauded. The collapse would have been worse. I told myself I was protecting people from that. Do you believe that? Mostly. I also wanted them to hurt the way they hurt me. I'm not proud of that, but I'm not ashamed either. She nodded, didn't judge, just listened. The divorce was finalized 3 months later, fault-based, adultery. With the prenup and the evidence, Amanda got almost nothing. She kept what she'd earned during the marriage, her 401k, her car, some personal items. I kept the apartment, most of our savings, all my investments, no spousal support. She was young, educated, employed, at least she had been. The court saw no reason why she couldn't support herself. I heard later she'd gotten a job in retail management, not sales director at a hot startup, retail, managing a store at a mall in Jersey. Richard was facing criminal charges. The SEC had referred the case to the DOJ. Last I heard, he was looking at potential jail time, though his lawyers were fighting to keep it to fines and probation. His ex-wife gave a statement to the press. I'm not surprised. Richard always thought he was smarter than everyone else. Turns out he wasn't. For a while, I felt like I was floating. I'd spent 6 months with a singular focus, gathering evidence, planning, waiting for the right moment. And then, in 90 minutes, it was done. Everything I'd been working toward was finished. I didn't know what to do with myself. I'd moved to a new apartment, smaller but nicer, better light, better neighborhood. I wanted a fresh start, a place that wasn't full of memories of Amanda. I threw myself into work, started a new investment fund, this one with an explicit focus on ethical startups. I called it Integrity Capital. The irony wasn't lost on me. I invested in 5 companies in the first 6 months. All of them were doing well. Turns out when you invest in founders who aren't cooking the books, your returns are more stable. I also started dating again. Nothing serious at first, just coffee dates, drinks, trying to remember how to talk to women without suspicion lurking in the back of my mind. And then I met Sarah, not my therapist, different Sarah. She was a teacher, 3rd grade. We met through mutual friends at a dinner party. She was funny, warm, completely outside the tech world. She had no idea who I was or what had happened with Tech Vista. To her, I was just Nathan, a guy who did financial analysis and liked hiking and made terrible puns. It was refreshing. We took it slow. I was honest with her early on, told her I was recently divorced, that it had been messy, that I was still processing some things. She appreciated the honesty. Didn't push. 6 months after everything imploded, I ran into one of Amanda's old colleagues at a coffee shop near my new apartment, a woman named Jennifer who'd been on the sales team at Tech Vista. She recognized me, hesitated, then came over. Nathan, hi. Jennifer, how are you? Good. Well, as good as you can be after your company explodes. She gave a rueful smile. I heard about everything. I'm sorry. You don't need to apologize. For what it's worth, a lot of us knew something was off with the numbers. No one had the guts to say anything. We all wanted to believe, wanted the IPO to happen. I nodded. I get it. You did the right thing, even if it cost us our jobs. Better than being part of a fraud. Thanks for saying that. She shifted her weight like she was deciding whether to say something else. Then, I saw Amanda a couple months ago. She's not doing great. Working retail, living with her parents. She asked about you. What did you tell her? That I didn't know, that you'd moved, changed your number, that you'd basically disappeared. That's accurate. She wanted me to tell you she was sorry, if I ever saw you. I took a sip of my coffee. Let that sit. Okay. Jennifer looked at me for a long moment. Are you happy, Nathan? Was I happy? I thought about it, about my new apartment, my new fund. Sarah, who made me laugh and didn't come with baggage or betrayal. About the fact that I could sleep through the night now without wondering where my wife was or who she was with. I'm getting there, I said. That felt true. People ask me if I'd do it differently. If I had the chance to go back, knowing what I know now, would I still make those calls? Honestly, I don't know. What I do know is this. I refuse to be the person they thought I was. The harmless, clueless husband who'd just accept whatever they decided for him. The safe choice Amanda had outgrown. The plus one who counted beans while empire builders changed the world. I didn't burn their lives down. They built their house on fraud and betrayal. I just showed everyone it was made of cardboard. Did revenge make me happy? No. Revenge doesn't make anyone happy, not really. But it did something else. It gave me my agency back. It reminded me that I wasn't powerless, that being underestimated is only a weakness if you let it be. And maybe that's the real lesson here. If you're the quiet one, the underestimated one, the safe choice someone's taking for granted while they chase excitement, remember this. Still waters run deep. The person you dismissed today might be the one holding your entire future in their hands tomorrow. And when you realize that, it'll be too late. I'm not looking for excitement anymore. I'm not looking for someone who sees me as safe while they wait for something better to come along. I'm looking for someone who sees me, really sees me, who values the quiet strength, the careful planning, the depth that doesn't announce itself. And you know what? I found her. Sarah and I have been together for 8 months now. It's early, but it's good, healthy, built on honesty instead of secrets. Last week, we went hiking upstate, stopped at a lookout point, sat on a rock, shared a sandwich. She asked me about my marriage. I told her the truth, the affair, the betrayal, the revenge. She listened quietly. Then she said, "Do you regret it?" "I regret that it was necessary," I said, echoing what I'd told Dr. Chen. "I don't regret doing it," she nodded. "I think I get that. You don't think I'm a bad person? I think you're a person who got hurt and made sure the people who hurt you couldn't do it to anyone else. That's not bad. That's just human." I kissed her, right there on that rock with the valley spread out below us and the sun setting over the mountains. I've always believed in playing the long game. Turns out, the longest game is the one you play with yourself, learning when to hold on and when to let go. I held on long enough to protect myself, to make sure justice was served, even if I had to serve it myself. And then I let go of the anger, the hurt, the obsessive need to know if they were suffering the way I'd suffered. I don't think about Amanda much anymore. I don't Google Richard to see if he's gone to prison or what happened with his charges. I don't check in with old Tech Vista people to hear the latest drama. I've moved on, really moved on. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from this story, it's this. You can be kind and still have boundaries. You can be quiet and still be powerful. You can play the long game and still know when it's time to walk away. Just make sure when you finally move, you make it count. Because the quiet ones, we only move once, but when we do, we don't miss.